You ever seen the price for a pro AI tool and thought, wait, how can this possibly cost more than my Netflix, Spotify, and gym membership combined? It feels impossible. That jarring sticker shock is a real and common experience. You look at a monthly fee that could cover a whole suite of entertainment you use every day, and you have to wonder what could possibly justify it. But what if I told you that price tag is only partially about the real cost? What if it's also a story about psychology, strategy, and a modern-day gold rush? Today we're peeling back the layers of the AI pricing onion. We're gonna find out why these tools cost what they do, because the initial pricing we all saw wasn't just a simple calculation to cover expenses. It was a strategic move by industry leaders, a deliberate choice to establish a premium value for their technology right from the very beginning. To truly understand it, you have to look at it like an iceberg. All we ever really see is that small, visible tip sticking out of the water, but the immense and complex costs that keep that entire structure afloat, the vast majority of its reality, is hidden deep beneath the surface. And that hidden part is where our story begins. Before we get to the mind games, let's build our foundation by looking at the very real, very expensive physical world behind every AI response. Let's get our tools ready to understand what AI is actually made of. First, you have to understand that AI isn't just code floating in the cloud. It's a massive, power-hungry physical operation. To get a feel for the scale, let's use an analogy. Building and running a top-tier AI model is like funding and operating a Formula One racing team. You don't just pay for the driver, you pay for the cutting-edge car, which in the AI world are the thousands of specialized, high-performance computer chips, or GPUs, that are essential for both training and running these complex models. Then there's the state-of-the-art factory, which for AI are the massive, secure data centers needed to house all that hardware. And of course, you need a world-class pit crew, the army of specialized engineers who keep the whole thing running. Finally, just like an F1 car needs a constant supply of fuel and tires, an AI model needs a constant, massive flow of electricity and data. The physical hardware alone is a staggering expense. For example, to host a powerful open source model like Llama 3 on a cloud server, you could be looking at costs ranging from thousands to nearly $24,000 a month. And that's just to run it, not including the millions spent to train it in the first place. Next, there's the human and data cost. Think of data as the food for the AI's brain, and AI is only as smart as the library it gets to read. But building that library is a monumental task. It involves hiring an army of highly paid expert librarians, in this case data scientists and engineers, to find, collect, clean, and meticulously label colossal amounts of information. It's not just about downloading the internet. It's a painstaking and therefore wildly expensive process of curation. So, with these immense costs, companies that want to use AI face two very expensive choices. The first is to host the models themselves, basically building their own F1 team from scratch. This means incurring all those huge hardware, energy, and personnel costs 24/7. The alternative is to use a model as a service, where they pay a cloud provider for the AI services. This is like renting a race car and driver for a few laps. Instead of a massive upfront investment, you pay per token, which you can think of as a word or a piece of a word that the AI processes. This lowers the barrier to entry, but it can lead to unpredictable, shockingly high bills if your product or service becomes popular and you start using the AI a lot. So you're choosing between a massive fixed expense or a variable cost that could explode at any moment. These are the foundational building blocks of AI's price tag, the real-world, unavoidable expenses that form the massive, hidden base of that pricing iceberg. So, we know the rules of the game. the very real, very expensive physical world behind every single AI response, let's see what happens when those rules interact with the strange and fascinating world of human psychology. This is where the price you see starts to separate from the price it actually costs, and where the real magic of marketing begins. The pricing of AI isn't just about covering expenses. It's a carefully constructed performance designed to make you feel good about opening your wallet. And the show often starts with the classic act of misdirection. It's like watching a magician on stage. By anchoring your attention on a huge, dramatic number, they make the still expensive item they pull out of their hat seem like a delightful and affordable surprise. You'll see this all the time. A company will prominently display an enterprise plan for thousands of dollars a month. You, a single user, were never going to buy that. But by showing you that colossal price first, the standard plan they actually want you to buy for, say, $19.99 suddenly feels incredibly reasonable. It's a classic psychological tactic, from price anchoring to charm pricing. The reason every price ends in 0.99, to decoy pricing, where a third less attractive option is added just to make the target plan look like the smartest choice. But the performance doesn't end when you click buy. In fact, that's often just the beginning of the second act, which we could call the budget airline model of pricing. You know the feeling. The ticket price to your destination looks fantastic, but then you're charged for your seat, your carry-on, and even for printing your boarding pass. The initial price was just the illusion, and the final cost is far higher. AI pricing is saturated with this logic. The advertised price is rarely the final price, because many companies hide costs in complex credit systems. Your subscription doesn't give you unlimited access. It gives you a monthly allowance of credits. But how many credits does a single query burn? It could be dozens or even hundreds, and the math is often confusing by design. Need to remove their branding from your chatbot? That's an extra fee. Want to use a custom domain? That's another charge. And worst of all, some of these models effectively punish you for your own success. The pricing tiers can be structured with brutal cliffs. If your AI-powered service suddenly becomes popular and you exceed your plan's limits by even a small amount, you're not just charged a little more, you're often forced into a much more expensive plan, turning your victory into a sudden massive bill. The initial price was just the bait. And all of this complexity, all of this psychological maneuvering leads us to the biggest puzzle in this entire story. If the real-world costs are so immense that companies have to resort to these intricate gains to make their prices seem reasonable, how is it possible that some of the most powerful and sophisticated AI models are being released as open source, essentially for free? This seems to contradict everything we've learned so far. It's a paradox that doesn't seem to make any sense inside the world we've built, and to solve it, we have to find a completely new frame of reference. For this entire journey, we've assumed that AI pricing is a math problem, a straightforward calculation of infrastructure and personnel costs plus a standard profit margin. But the reality is far more dramatic and much bigger. The secret isn't in a spreadsheet, it's in the headlines. We're living in a frenzied, high-stakes gold rush, and the price of AI is less about cost and more about staking a claim in the future. The core misconception is that these companies are simply charging what they need to. The surprising truth is that we are in the middle of a massive wave of investment that's inflating the entire market. In 2022, about 22% of all US venture capital was invested in AI companies. In 2023, that grew to 36%. In 2024, a staggering 42% of all US venture capital was being poured into AI. Globally, by just the first half of 2025, venture capital investment in generative AI had already hit $49.2 billion, which is more than the total for all of 2024. This isn't a simple business trend. Investors are calling it a once-in-a-generation industrial revolution for technology. The high prices are set not just to cover the immense cost, but to signal premium value and the fight for market dominance in what investors believe is the next tectonic shift in technology. They're not just selling a product, they're selling a stake in the future. And right now, the price of that future is breathtakingly high. So, let's look back at our original puzzle with our new key, the gold rush. Suddenly, it all fits together. The pieces that seemed like contradictions are actually just different sides of the same strategy. Remember those colossal infrastructure costs we talked about? The data centers and the mountains of GPUs? In light of the gold rush, they aren't just an operational expense anymore. They become a strategic moat. The billions of dollars raised from investors are immediately poured into building a hardware advantage so massive that smaller competitors simply cannot catch up. This is how giants like OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic solidify their market position. They're not just building AI, they're building a fortress that's almost impossible to breach. And what about those psychological pricing games? The premium subscription tiers and the eye-watering enterprise plans. That's a direct reflection of the gold rush mentality. The price isn't just designed to cover costs. It's engineered to send a signal to investors and the market. It establishes a premium category from day one, helping to justify the massive, almost unbelievable valuations that venture capitalists have assigned to these companies. The price tag is part of the performance. This new perspective even solves the biggest puzzle we encountered. If AI is so expensive to build and run, how on earth can some of the most powerful models be released for free? This is the other side of the gold rush coin. It's a brilliant strategic power play. Companies like Meta and Mistral aren't giving away their models out of pure generosity. They're doing it to intentionally create competition, to prevent a single closed-source company from becoming the sole gatekeeper of this technology. By releasing their models into the wild, they build a massive, loyal community of developers who use and improve their tech, turning it into a de facto standard. It's a global chess match for the future. And what looks like a gift is actually one of the most clever moves on the board. See how it all connects now? The insane costs, the clever pricing, and even the existence of free AI. They aren't random or contradictory at all. They're all just different strategies in the same high-stakes game for market dominance. This isn't just about your wallet. It's about the very future of access to knowledge. The current pricing models are forging a new kind of digital divide, a gap between the AI haves, corporations, and professionals who can afford the best tools, and the AI have-nots, which includes students, artists, small businesses, and frankly, most of us. It's a genuine risk that the most powerful tools of the next century could be locked away, accessible only to the highest bidder. But the story isn't over. In fact, the most beautiful part of this puzzle is that the very force that created these high prices is also creating the solution. The intense competition of this AI gold rush, which has driven costs up, is also the engine that will inevitably bring them down. The rise of powerful, free, open-source models acts as a constant gravitational pull on the prices of the closed premium services. New business models are also emerging to bridge the gap, like AI aggregator platforms that can bundle access to many of the world's top models for a single low fee. The market is adapting because the demand for access is universal. Think about it. The grand promise of AI was always to democratize information and capability, to give everyone a brilliant co-pilot for their minds. The current pricing seems to build walls around that promise. But the beautiful, chaotic, and competitive struggle between open and closed philosophies, between today's tech giants and tomorrow's scrappy startups, is the very force that will likely tear those walls down.